Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I am Tanvi Thaneja. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India summons chargé d'affaires of Canada in India after Ottawa terms Indian High Commissioner and other Indian diplomats as persons of interest in a case. Taiwan military on high alert as China holds drills around the island. US monitors the developments. And Nobel Prize in Economics 2024 awarded to Daron Acemoglu from Turkey, Simon Johnson and James Robinson from the United States. India has slammed Canada over a case involving its diplomats. India's External Affairs Ministry in a statement said that it received diplomatic communication from Canada on Sunday suggesting that the Indian High Commissioner and other diplomats are persons of interest in a matter related to an investigation in that country. In response, the Indian ministry said that the government of India strongly rejects the preposterous imputations and ascribes them to the political agenda of the Justin Trudeau government that is centred around vote bank politics. The ministry also said that some individuals who have entered Canada illegally have been fast-tracked for citizenship, and multiple extradition requests from the government of India in respect of terrorists and organised crime leaders living in Canada have been disregarded. The government of India has taken cognizance of the activities of the Canadian High Commission in India that serve the political agenda of the current regime. India now reserves the right to take further steps in response to these latest efforts of the Canadian government to concoct allegations against Indian diplomats.
Canada and its government led by Prime Minister Trudeau has repeatedly thrown accusations against India, the Indian officials, and this time against the Indian High Commissioner, while endangering their lives. We have seen the last time what they did, that the posters of the Indian ambassador and consul general were published by the separatist and terrorist elements in Canada, which is quite ridiculous actually for a responsible state to do so, just for myopic political ends. They have brought in a large number of disgruntled elements and made them prosper as terrorist and extremist groups within their own country, and trying to use Canada as the base for separatist activities out of India.
China on Monday launched military drills around Taiwan, sending jets and warships that encircle the island. With the drill, Beijing said that it aimed at sending a stern warning to separatist forces on the island. This is the fourth round of large-scale drills in the past 2 years without declaring an end date. Chinese media reported that the People's Liberation Army conducted the exercise to test the capability of its troops to coordinate across multiple arenas, mount systematic attacks, and launch precision strikes. In a statement, the Chinese military's Eastern Theatre Command said that the Joint Sword 2024B drills were taking place in the Taiwan Strait and areas to the north, south and east of Taiwan. It further stated its ships and aircraft are approaching Taiwan in close proximity from different directions, focusing on sea-to-air combat readiness patrols, blockading key ports and areas, assaulting maritime and ground targets, and joint seizure of comprehensive superiority. Meanwhile, Taiwan's defense ministry said that 125 Chinese military aircraft and warships, 17 warships, participated in new war games near Taiwan on Monday. Although the Chinese forces did not enter Taiwan's contiguous zone, the ministry is closely monitoring China's rocket forces.
As for the military power at sea, there were 17 warships. Among them, 4 were at the southeast coast. There were 17 at the Coast Guard vessels, 3 at the north, 2 near the median line, 3 at southwest, and 4 in the east. There were 5 other near the outlying islands. There were 125 military aircraft, including fighter jets and drones, were involved.
The United States, meanwhile, said that the Biden administration is monitoring the PLA exercises around Taiwan. The Biden administration, in a statement, urged the Chinese government to avoid any further actions that may jeopardize peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and in the broader region. It further said no justification for military exercises and pressure campaigns in response to a routine annual speech. The U.S. reiterated its One China policy has not changed. The U.S. said it opposes unilateral changes to the status quo from either side and support cross-strait dialogue. The U.S. further said it expects cross-strait differences to be resolved by peaceful means. Updates next on the West Asia conflict. Israel's military said a Hezbollah drone had killed 4 soldiers at one of its northern bases on Sunday. The attack on a military training camp near Haifa is the deadliest such assault on an Israeli base since September 23rd, when Israel increased its attacks on Hezbollah in Lebanon. Emergency services reported more than 60 wounded. The incident occurred reportedly after the Israeli military detected 5 projectiles launched from Lebanon. Sirens were activated in several regions, including Galilee, Haifa Bay and Carmel. Hezbollah late on Sunday said that it launched a squadron of attack drones at Israel's Binyamina camp. The strike was in response to Israeli attacks, including airstrikes on Thursday in central Beirut. In a later statement, Hezbollah warned Israel with more attacks if its offensive in Lebanon continued. Israel's army chief and defense minister visited an army base that was hit by a Hezbollah drone, resulting in the deaths of 4 soldiers. Israeli military spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said that an investigation is underway. Footage showed Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant at the site following the attack.
At around 7 o'clock in the evening, an unmanned aerial vehicle of Hezbollah infiltrated from Lebanon and struck this base. The results are difficult and there are casualties. At this point, there is complete operational control on the incident. All the casualties were evacuated to hospitals. We are now busy with notifying their families. All the troops in the base were asked to call home and inform their families that they are fine. We are managing the incident. We will study and investigate the incident and how a UAV infiltrates without alerts and strikes the base.
European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell condemned Israel's attacks on the United Nations peacekeeping mission in Lebanon as unacceptable. Speaking at an EU ministerial meeting in Luxembourg on Monday, Borrell stressed the need to oppose such attacks.
Yesterday night, finally, after hours of discussion, we agreed on a 27 statement supporting UNIFIL. The 27 members agreed on asking Israel to stop attacking UNIFIL. Many European members are participating in this mission. Their work is very important. It's completely unacceptable attacking United Nations troops.
Nobel Prize for Economics have been announced. US-based academics Daron Acemoglu, Simon Johnson and James Robinson have won the 2024 Nobel Economics Prize for their research on how institutions shape prosperity. The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences announced the prize on Monday, valued at 11 million Swedish crowns or $1.1 million US. The award highlights the crucial role of societal institutions in reducing income disparities between countries. This award is the final Nobel Prize for the year.
The Academy of Sciences has decided to award Sveriges Riksbanksprize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel for 2024 to Daron Acemoglu, MIT, Cambridge, USA, Simon Johnson, MIT, Cambridge, USA, and James Robinson, University of Chicago, USA, for studies of how institutions are formed and affect prosperity.
As the US presidential election reaches its last lap, the Indian American community is playing an increasingly important role in these elections. Indian Americans, though still small in numbers, are now the largest and most politically active group among Asian Americans. DD India's Amritpal Singh travelled to California's Central Valley to meet farmers of Indian origin there who have been settled there for over a century. Listen in.
When Usha Vance stood beside her husband, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's running mate, at the Republican National Convention in July this year, it marked the first time that an Indian American stood to become a vice presidential spouse. That cemented a remarkable reality that a woman of Indian descent will either serve as the next president of the United States of America or become its second lady. It was the latest milestone for the Indian American community that has emerged as a political powerhouse over the past decade. Today, the Indian Americans are increasingly being nominated to senior public service positions, occupying over 4.4% of the positions, while the Indian diaspora makes up a mere 1.5% of the US population. The Indian diaspora represents a dynamic network of 5.1 million people, including 2.8 million first-generation immigrants. Today we travel to a small town in Central California called Yuba City to meet farmers who have been growing peaches and prunes here for over a century.
In this area, most farmers, they don't do that much raw crop, but they do more like walnut, almond, peaches, prune. It's big agriculture.
The story of the Indians in Yuba City begins at the turn of the 20th century, when early immigrants from Punjab came here to work as farm laborers. The handful of immigrants over the century have grown into a thriving community of thousands of prosperous farmers, business owners, and professionals.
Started in the 1900s, right? People had came through illegally into Mexico, and they got married there with the Mexican ladies to become citizens. Then they went into Brawley. So we have even a Sikh temple over there in Mexico. And slowly they shifted towards the north here, like we're sitting in Yuba City, California here. Fresno area, Stockton, San Jose, all these areas, Bakersfield, that's how they shifted all along. And they have made a big change since when they came from there. But now the farming has really changed since the 1900s to now.
Over the years, they have assimilated well in the American society.
We help each other. I have 2 Sikh neighbors by me. They've helped me harvest. I've helped them do things and given them spare things that I didn't need anymore that they can use. And so, I mean, we get along just like we do with any neighbor.
Though successive generations ventured out into other professions, becoming doctors, engineers, and businessmen, many amongst them are now returning to their family profession of farming. While the contribution of the Indian diaspora in the technology sector in the United States is pretty well known and well documented, it is the contribution of the Indian farmers in the American economy, also in the American society, by bringing in their values of diversity, inclusivity, and tolerance that makes this small community a pretty sought-after voter base for both political parties. With cameraman Sanjay Jaina, this is Amritpal Singh in Yuba City, Central California for DD India.
You're watching DD India Live, still to come on the show. Li Keqiang lands in Islamabad for the SCO summit. This is the first visit by any Chinese premier in more than a decade to Pakistan. And FIFA to open global dialogue on transfer rules after the European Union verdict.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Thank you for staying with us. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Tanvi Thaneja. India's President Draupadi Murmu is in Algeria as part of a three-nation African visit. President of India laid wreath at Maqam-e-Shahid Martyrs Memorial, built in honor of the martyrs of the Algerian War of Independence. The President also visited Mujahid Museum that exhibits the key stages of the armed struggle of Algerians. President Murmu took a tour of the museum that showcases paintings, weapons, archival footage and war objects that belong to the Algerian Mujahideens who fought against French colonization from 1830 to 1962. During her visit, the Indian President will hold bilateral meetings with the President of Algeria and other major leaders. On the first leg of her visit, President Murmu arrived in Algeria on Sunday and was accorded a warm ceremonial welcome. As part of her three-nation visit after Algeria, she will travel to Mauritania and Malawi in Africa. India has reached a significant milestone in its renewable energy journey, with the country's total renewable energy capacity crossing the 200 gigawatt mark as of October 10th. According to the Central Electricity Authority, the total renewable energy-based electricity generation capacity now stands at 201.45 gigawatt. These initiatives have not only reduced reliance on fossil fuels, but also strengthened the nation's energy security. This achievement underscores India's growing commitment to clean energy and its progress in building a greener future. From sprawling solar parks to wind farms and hydroelectric projects, the country has steadily built a diverse renewable energy base. On to Pakistan now. In a first visit by any Chinese premier in more than a decade to the country, Chinese Premier Li Qiang landed in Islamabad on Monday ahead of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization SCO summit scheduled this week. India is one of the 9 full members of the organization. The 23rd edition of the summit will be held for 15th and 16th of October, ahead of which Pakistan has announced 3-day public holiday in the capital for security reasons. On to Europe. Germany has been struggling with a weak economy for the better of 2 years now, and a look at latest numbers worries experts once again. Lars Holter is with the Deutsche Welle and he joins me from Berlin now. Lars, what can you tell us about the state of the German economy?
Thanks for having me. Well, the latest numbers we're looking at come from a survey among German companies, and it seems that insolvencies are up drastically. In fact, the number of companies filing for bankruptcy is up almost 14% for the month of September, and it has actually been rising by double digits every single month for over a year now, with one exception this past summer. So we're not looking at a few rough weeks or months here. We're looking at a major trend of companies going under, and there is obviously one major reason for it. The German economy is generally not doing well, and we just found out too last week the government sees economic activity down 0.2% for the current year, and that is following down 0.3% last year, and more importantly, it's weaker than we had expected.
What's the long-term outlook then, Lars? Is there a silver lining for some German companies, if not all?
Now, that's really hard to say, especially since, like I just said, too many insolvencies bring upon problems for other companies, so they might even lead to an ever-increasing trend. However, there is light at the end of the tunnel for at least some businesses. The construction sector comes to mind. With interest rates being lowered again, construction activity is set to increase again. So at least companies in that particular sector are likely to see some more business. But of course, we have a lot of businesses here to that are purely cyclical, and they won't see a brighter future until the economy turns around in total and starts growing again. Machine building would be a prime example, but even consumer businesses like tourism and gastronomy, with people worrying more about the economy, often worrying about jobs and their own financial stability. Many are spending less money, including on leisure, of course, which again makes for a hard time for hotels, restaurants, and many others who are also filing for bankruptcy in rising numbers. So this is really a hard cycle to break out of.
Thank you, Lars. Lars Salter joining us from DW Berlin. Moving on, British Foreign Minister David Lammy termed his attendance at a European Union foreign ministers meeting in Luxembourg on Monday as a significant step in resetting relations with the EU after Brexit. He called it a historic moment and emphasised the indivisible security of the UK and Europe. EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell expressed a desire to strengthen ties between the EU and the UK, while the Labour Party has ruled out rejoining the EU single market or its customs union. It is open to reducing some trade barriers with the EU.
Delighted to be here at the Foreign Affairs Council for this historic moment that marks our EU reset, and delighted to talk to 27 member states and their foreign ministers about important issues of European security. The UK and Europe's security is indivisible.
Political leaders from Western Balkan states gathered in Berlin on Monday for the 10th installment of the so-called Berlin process, which aims to bring the Western Balkans closer to the EU. During the summit, representatives from Bosnia, Herzegovina, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Albania, Serbia and Kosovo signed agreements on improving access to higher education and a declaration on an action plan for the Western Balkans Common Regional Market for 2025 to 2028. Since 2014, the Berlin process summits have been working to improve cooperation in the Western Balkans and their relations with the EU. The future is of India and the US defense ties. Speaking exclusively to DD India's Vishal Barristow, the Vice President of Lockheed Martin says that both countries are going great in aero defense and rare earth materials. And now is the time to take this mutual trust to the next level.
India's aim of becoming self-reliant as far as the defense sector is concerned?
Well, first off, I think its future is incredibly bright. I just talked on the prior panel. There's a tremendous foundation we've established over the last 15 years through our joint ventures and really over the last 30 years of our presence here in India. Whether you measure it through the defense exports, now 50% of India's defense exports go to the U.S., the foundational agreements that are now in place, most recently the Security of Supply Agreement, SOSA, but that builds on a whole host of I will say, trust building and commitments between our two countries in the defense sector. And I think we can take it to the next level. We sell platforms, aircraft, helicopters, transport aircraft, and missile systems. But when we do that, we bring our tier one partners from the U.S. And that's where there's a tremendous amount of collaboration with Indian companies, whether it's our ability to get to very high levels of indigenous content in India is actually helping us be more resilient. And that's a critical piece of it. We need to find a way to do that in critical materials, aerospace defense materials, rare earth metals. I think that's a future opportunity for resiliency and security of supply.
So how do you see the role of Lockheed Martin investing more in Indian companies and also collaborating with the MSMEs and the startups?
The Indian Air Force, we've committed to C-130J MRO in India with our partner Tata. That's going to allow us to sustain a very high availability of that aircraft in the Indian Air Force fleet, and then also look at opportunities to be able to regionally maintain, repair and overhaul aircraft, C-130Js. We would like to build the C-130J in India to meet the medium transport aircraft requirement. And that will take hundreds of suppliers that we already have in place to thousands of suppliers and tens of thousands of jobs.
So you heard William Blair. He is very optimistic as far as the defense ties between the two countries are concerned. And yes, Indian Air Force is their major client, and we are all looking forward to more such investments. With cameraman Saurabh in Delhi, this is Vishal Baristo for DT India. How do you see India?
Okay, now some sporting action. The Board of Control for Cricket in India, or BCCI, has announced the fixtures for the upcoming 3-match one-day series between Indian women's team and New Zealand's. The first match will be played on October 24th, while the second and the third matches will take place on October 27th and 29th, respectively. All matches of this series will be held at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. They are part of the ICC Women's Championship. Football governing body FIFA said that they will start negotiations with the sports stakeholders on the transfer system rules after the European Union Court ruled that some of its aspects were unlawful. FIFA's regulations on the status and transfer of players says a player who terminates a contract before its term without just cause is liable to pay compensation to the club, and when the player joins a new club, they will be jointly liable for the payment of compensation. While ruling on a high-profile case linked to a former France player, Lassana Diarra, the Court of Justice of the European Union stated that these rules were unlawful, and the judgment is expected to prompt FIFA to revamp its transfer regulations. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can catch all the latest news and updates on our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. So we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. From all of us here in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.